Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. It's a brand new show. We've been going about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months now. We've had lots of different guests on my show over the months. And nevertheless, we've got a great guest on my show today. Her name is Eve Howard. She's an enrolled member of the White Earth Band of GG, of the member of Disclosure Community, and the host of Prime Declassified podcast on Rumble. So, can we please welcome Eve to the show? Hello there.
Hi. Thank you so much, Bob, for having me on. Such an honor. Such an honor.
Well, thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and growing up and about your podcast.
I grew up in like the northern Minnesota area of United States, and my mother was from a different reservation than my father was. So we lived on many reservations, and I was growing up. I was about age 3 and living in a sovereign nation in northern Minnesota. That was my mother's reservation, and then I also have where I grew up on the another reservation that was like kind of middle of the state. It's like around a tourist town, really beautiful area, lots of woods, lots of different stories that the adults would talk about that children shouldn't listen to, but we did anyway. So we grew up around a lot of different types of cryptid sightings, uh, lights, ships in the sky. I have seen actual beings, and from the age of 3, my sister witnessed all this. So I've always had like this connection with anything that's like UFO or extraterrestrial, and I had so Ojibwe, where I am from, and I had a medicine man translate what we call ourselves. We call ourselves Anishinaabe, and he translated it as light lowered from the stars. So, and I think
Oh,
that's goes for a lot of indigenous tribal people from the United States.
you're a lifelong experiencer, ET.
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about that.
I remember this. There's just some parts that were completely wiped from my memory, but my sister, our stories kind of matched exactly, except for the parts that were missing. I was only 3, and we were looking at some piglets that were just born previously at my uncle's house, and I wandered off. It was like somebody was calling me, because I remember turning and I remember looking, and there was like a little break in the trees, and then there was a path that ran parallel to the lake. And you didn't have to walk very far, probably, about 50 yards. And and it came up to like another break, and it would go right onto a nice sandy beach. And I wandered away. And my sister went back in the house, and my mother told her, "You go back and you find her and you bring her back. She's only 3 years old." So she took off, and she wandered back where I had been. And I remember standing there looking out at the water. Just I wasn't on the sandy part, and I'm just staring out, and I hear her call me, and she's calling my name, and I look over, but I don't see her yet. And then she walks over, grabs me, and we leave. But there was a certain part that I didn't see or could remember. And she had come back and told our mother that there was a man standing there, and I was looking at him, and I was smiling, and he was smiling at me. But when she got up closer, she realized that this wasn't a man, that he had no hair. He was like a very grayish, she said, type skin, and his eyes were very big, but he didn't have normal eyes like everybody else did. And there's just no, not much of a nose, just a couple of nasal holes, and She doesn't remember much. It looked like she said he wasn't wearing clothes, but then when she got closer, it was almost like a light suit that was like very conformed to his body. And he telepathically told her, don't be scared. And you're not taking her. And she grabbed me and we left. So years later, I guess I came across the picture and my mother was speaking about the incident. And I said, I kind of remember that day, but there are things that are missing. So I went to my sister and I said, you're the only one I haven't heard the story from. Would you be able to tell me what it was that you saw? And she explained exactly what I explained to you. And she went back in and she drew the picture, and it was in a book for many years. So fast forward to 2005, and my daughter, who is 13 at this time, I ask her go out to grab my purse out of the car. I hand her the keys. She comes back and she has this look on her face and she just drops everything and walks away. And I was like, well, teenagers, I figured it was just something that was going that. And I'm going to go drop her off at my mother's house. And halfway there, she says, I saw something. And I said, what did you see? She said, I saw a man standing behind where we were staying, and he was in a field. And I looked at him and he wasn't wearing any clothes, but he didn't have any private parts and he didn't have any hair. He had no hair on his body whatsoever. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, I'm scared. And he speaks to me and I hear it in my head and he tells me, don't be scared. She said, and I turned and I ran and I grabbed your purse and I came back and I just dropped everything. And I said, when you get to grandmother's house, I said, can you draw the being that you saw? And she said, yes. So I spoke with my mom that evening when I went to pick up the girls. And she said, I was trying to find that old picture that your sister drew. She said, but it's basically the same being. It's the same man. They still think it's a man. But it's all the same story, but like 30 years later. So these beings have been around my family for a long time, watching, observing, recording, doing something.
Where do you think they're from then?
I have no idea. To me, it feels like they're like vibrational beings that are used from like higher dimensional type beings that can't access our dimension, and they can. So they are brought in and they watch, observe. Sometimes they will come in and take the actual person, but also bring them back. But it's almost like a very strange feeling when they come because it's like this metallic type hum and I can hear it. And then as soon as I hear it, I can't move. And it's usually at night. And it's like it starts to vibrate. And then I can feel like either my feet rising up or my head rising up. And then I'm just vibrating. And I think what it is it's going through physical walls or ceilings to get to where it needs to go. And that's just kind of how I feel. I'm not sure. I'm not a a UFO researcher, but that's kind of what I feel.
We've heard that humming noise around this area, this district, quite a few times. Lots of people have said, have you heard that humming noise? I said, yeah. What is it? Nobody seems to know. We've tried talking to other people. They just said, every time you hear it, write it down, what time it is, and how you feel in yourself as well. Just to try and get some explanation from it.
It's really hard to break that metallic hum because once you become aware of it, it's like you can't move. So I can't, grab a pen or paper or even look at the time. But I've had some really strange, missing time, or else I've come like wake up in the morning and I pull the blankets off and there's like leaves or, pine needles, dirt in the bed, the pine needles are stuck to my feet, but I don't normally sleepwalk. I'm not a sleepwalker. So,
So you think you've been abducted a few times then?
oh, definitely. Definitely. And it all started from, I think it was like 2001. I saw this big blue orb in the forest, and uh, I wasn't the driver in the car. I just saw it when we were turning the corner. It was at night, and it was this huge blue orb, and it was just kind of like on the there was a pasture, a clearing there, and it was kind of coming along the tree line, and I could still see the trees behind it. So it was see through, and there was like it was almost like plasma energy, almost like little lightning bolts sometimes, seeing it inside of this orb. And after that, I had a series of not I would go to sleep and it would feel like I was having sleep paralysis. It would feel like there was a being in the room. And sometimes I would get like touched. They would touch my head or they would push my face down into a pillow. But it was it at one I think it was around the third time I woke up and I was on the ceiling. I could feel like how rough the ceiling was. It wasn't smooth. And it really scared me. Um I slept out on the couch the next night and it was like I was in this weird I hesitate to say dreams because once your body goes to sleep,
Mm,
you're free to travel other dimensions. So it's like remembering these things. And I'm in the house that I'm currently living in, and there's like an L-shaped kitchen and then the longer L is the living room. And I come around the corner and I see myself sleeping on the couch. And immediately I am just yanked by some invisible wire straight across the room, and I just slam back into my body and I wake up and I'm just like, oh no. I can't sleep here anymore. I felt like I was being attacked, but I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And it was going to my medicine man and talking to him about some of this, and he was the one that said, you're dream walking at night. And he was telling me how to protect my body so that there wouldn't be any type of entity attachments or anything trying to get in while I'm off walking or traveling. So I started sleeping with a medicine bag. I would sleep with it,
right.
in my pocket, my pants pocket or in my shirt pocket. And I would have all these really interesting travels and seeing different beings, being on different planets. Um, and it was almost like there would be something that I'm like, I would go to this one area, and every night that I would go to sleep, I was there for 3 weeks straight. And I would wake up in the same town or whatever it was. And I was like, this is not normal. That's when I started to actually like think back to all the things that I was thinking were dreams, but they were these moments of I'm out and about doing things, and I've looked in the mirrors and I've seen what I've written down in my notebook. And I leave one by my bed so I can write something down before I forget it.
Good.
And it said me, but different. And then it had mirror in letters next to it.
Right.
So I've done that two other times or another time. So two total times of going into and seeing a mirror. But the first time I remember what I look like. Like I have like a bronze skin, darker skin and darker hair and darker eyes. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go look at this mirror, see how my hair is. And I walk over and there's this woman with very pale skin and like pale blonde hair, so blonde that it's almost white. And she just looks back at me, and I was so shocked because this is, this is what I've looked like every time I get up and I go, in the mornings to the bathroom. I look like this. So to see
Yeah.
something in the astral, and it's not what you are always used to seeing, you see a different person. Or, I've actually, had a peek down the trousers and seen that I'm not a female anymore. Those types of things.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It's
Does it,
scary.
Eve, does it run in the family then? All this?
Mm, I think my father was like, my father, he had a lot of dreams like that. He would tell me it was like so real. And I can remember things like in my dream where, or I hate to say dreams, but my travels where I've like smelled something or I've eaten something and I've even gone to sleep. In my dream, I'm like getting ready for bed and I pull the blanket over my head and I've been jumped and there's something on top of me that smells really bad. Like body odor is very sour. It just
Mm.
doesn't smell right. There's almost like a faint match smell to them. And I couldn't move. And the only thing, this person jumped on top of me and put their elbows on the side of my head and they're on top of me and I'm laying on my back. And the blanket is pulled up and I can't see what they look like. But I just know that they're really close to the blanket. So they're the only thing that is separating me and this thing is this blanket. And for like maybe half a second, I was like, and I was like, don't be scared. Fear is
What do you
like the
think,
worst thing.
Eve? What do you think it was then?
Just what I remember what was happening when I was traveling. I was in this house and I was aware that there was something on the second floor that was haunting the second floor. And then it came down and it was like a girl, but it was like a girl that was possessed by a demon. And it went in the bathroom and I was like, "Oh, no big deal," and I fell asleep. And that's when she jumped on top of me. But it was this thing and it just smelled really bad. And I started praying immediately. And I'm not very religious, I mean, we don't really do a whole lot of, it's more spiritual for
Yeah.
indigenous. I'm not saying every single one of us is like that, but for me and my family, we're more spiritual. So I mean, it was immediately started saying a prayer, and then I said, "Get the f off me," and I could feel it get off me. And it took me a few seconds to be able to move again, but when I did, I pulled the blanket off of me and I jumped up and I was like, I was totally expecting something to be there. And I could still smell it in my room for about 10 to 15 minutes. There was this odor of this thing that smelled really bad. But yeah, and there was another second attack that week too. So I think it was just, my father was in the hospital. He was um having issues that they didn't think he would be able to leave the hospital. So, I mean, I was really stressed out. I was really, really low vibration, just feeling really bad. And that took that little bit of time to be attacked by two different things in the night, a week apart.
Entities. Do you think
Hmm.
there were some sort of entities then?
Yes, I really think so. I think,
Do,
oh, go ahead.
do you? Does any of your Native Americans talk about skinwalkers then?
That's kind of more of like a southwest type of like with the tribes down there. It can go kind of up into Utah. We don't really have anything like that. We have different types of things that they talk about, adults talk about, and children over here. And I've heard speak of it, and it was one of them in our area of the woods, northern Minnesota, was something called like the Devil Man, and people had seen him, different sightings. So that was always, in the back of my head. Um, there was the Goat Man, where he has like a face of a goat, and
Yeah.
he walks around and he's got like even the hooves of a goat, but he's a little bit bigger. And then my mother, I happened to hear her talk about something called the Rabbit Man, where it was this. It's not like a bit little funny, fuzzy Energizer bunny. It's something
No,
with claws,
quite
you
big.
know. Yeah, and I think when I was growing up, I was about 11, and one of the bus drivers saw in my area where I live something very big covered with long hair, fur, cross the road and scratch up a tree, and then they didn't know what to think it was, but it was sent a warning out to all of the parents in the area not to let your kids out to play, because they weren't quite sure what it was, but it left marks on the tree. But whatever it was walking on two hind legs. That's all that
See,
the bus driver.
when you talk to people and say you've seen something like that, you think you were balmy. You think there was something wrong with you.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's understood. I've actually questioned quite a bit of what I've seen and thought, am I crazy? Am I crazy? But something happened when I was like around 19, and my boyfriend and one of his friends, we were where I lived, and then he lived 20 minutes away, and I had to get him home by a certain time. And we are leaving where I live to go, and we could take two ways. There was an old windy road, or there was like a interstate type freeway where you could go a little bit faster, but there were still deer on both ways. And I'm trying to figure out which way to turn, and there's this woman that is hitchhiking on the side of the road. And I'm slowing down because I'm thinking of taking a left or going straight, and I see this woman, and she makes eye contact with me, which is really weird considering I'm in a car, it's dark, and my headlights are on. How can she see me? And
Exactly.
she smiles, but this smile turns into all of a sudden her jaw dropping down, and I'm seeing like these teeth that are an inch, inch and a half, 2 to 3 inches. They're really long, and they're very pointy, and she has many of them.
Oh
And
God.
it's like in her mouth. And I'm thinking, I'm seeing this. But no, my boyfriend is like smacking me, and he couldn't even say anything. He was just hitting me. And all of a sudden I hear the friend in the back seat go, "Oh my God, do you see her teeth? Do you see her effing teeth?" And it was like, and then my boyfriend just goes, "Go," and he pushes my leg down, and I just fly past her. But the whole time we're like looking behind us to make sure she's not running behind the car. So I mean, it was not just me seeing it; it was two other people seeing the exact same thing.
Tell us about being shot.
Pardon me? You kind of
Tell
blurred
me
out.
about being shot.
Being shot.
Yeah.
I was about 8, 9 years old, somewhere between 8 and 10, because my parents were still together and they didn't divorce until I was 10 years old. But I was about 8, and I'm off traveling, while my body is sleeping. And we were supposed to go into this warehouse and bring these people out that are being held hostage by these other people. And they don't have firearms or any weapons on them. So to show good faith, we weren't going to bring ours in either. So we walked in, and it was almost like a warehouse where they sold all kinds of stuff. And we walk all the way to the back, and I turn around because somebody is looking at somebody higher up. I turn around, and there's a man standing there with a mask on, and he has like an automatic rifle. And then I hear somebody say, "Retreat, retreat, and then we all just run out of the building, and I can hear gunfire behind me, and next thing you know, I'm hit, and I can feel it. The bullet lodged itself in my spine, like in my lower back, and I just fell down. And and then I'm just in so much pain, and I can feel like people grabbing me by my arms and just yanking me, just pulling me and picking me up by the top part, and then my legs are dragging and they're just pulling me, and I'm just in so much pain. And I woke up, and I could still feel it. I could still feel it for about 7, 8 minutes after. When I woke up, I'm still withering around on the bed in complete pain, because I can feel this burning in my body. And I've never been shot before, but I've talked to
No.
people that have been shot, and they said that I've had a couple people say, it's burning pain. And this was like when I was 8 years old. And I've never had any real horrible injury to my back, but I've had like 4 back surgeries on my back.
Oh God.
And it's in the same area where I was shot. So I think, a lot of the
And
DNA just holds on to these memories.
how is it now then?
I think I had a back surgery about 5 years ago. And it was a fusement. So they fused my spine and then put 4 titanium screws and a titanium rod. And I had very little trouble with it since then.
God, it's marvelous what they can do today as well.
Mm-hmm. I live in a very cold area, so when it gets to be wintertime, it can be 20 below here,
I
Fahrenheit.
can imagine. So you say you're from a Native American tribe, the
Mm-hmm.
Inner Earth. What's all? Tell us a little bit about the Inner Earth.
I don't think I've ever mentioned that living in the inner earth, but the tribe where I come from was brought here, along with other different indigenous tribes of North America and some of the South American tribes as well. And I don't believe that the history that they have actually painted is the complete and true history of like the indigenous people of North and South America. I think that they had the technology, and that was taken from them, and everything was
Yeah,
rewritten.
a lot about the Native Americans have had quite a bad time over the past years, wanting to take the land off them, and it's very difficult, isn't it, to
I think,
survive?
yeah, I think it's still to this day being done, but it's a more broader focus than say just the indigenous people. The people, a Hawaiian, they're also, I would consider them to be indigenous.
Yeah, it's a shame that things like that happen. It shouldn't
Hmm.
be able to happen because it's their land.
Right. They, even for the indigenous when they were here, they didn't hold titles or anything. That was all brought in, that type of, it was brought in from Europe, like where you had to have titles of land, and they were like buying land from people that were like, why, it's here for everybody. It's not any one person's, but it was a concept that was unknown. Um, so I think that even how they treated them, they didn't consider them to be citizens of the United States until like I'm going to say 1920s, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And they were making other people citizens of the United States before they even considered the indigenous people that had been living here to be citizens of their own country.
Do you do you think you were a star seed then, a star child?
I think a lot of different individuals, I know that they put groups of people into so different generations, but there's been a lot of prophecies. I think it was like April, they had a buffalo that was born, and they have the white buffalo prophecy, which is the white buffalo calf woman. She's returning. Um, and to mark her return, there will be a pure white baby buffalo born. And that was in April that happened. And
No.
a lot of people are like, "Oh,
Oh,
well,
right.
the it they're like they're not pure white." Well, of course, and there's not really a whole lot that is pure white, but they're supposed to change in exact colors of the medicine wheel, which is white, yellow, red, and black. And that buffalo, when he grows up, he will become, from white to yellow. He'll have like a yellowish, look to his coat, and then it'll turn to like almost like a reddish brown, and then it'll become very dark brown. So it has to make the whole medicine wheel of colors.
Do you have, when you've had all these different things happen to you, do you have missing time then?
I think the one time where I've just had a total block of a complete day of missing was around the spring of 1997. And at that time, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. So I think it was like March 13th of 1997. They had the Phoenix lights. Well, I had a total block of missing time, and I had an apartment in South Phoenix, and I was like 2 days later I wake up and I'm like in a motel, and I'm like, I don't remember getting here or anything. My vehicle was outside, and there was stuff in the ashtray that I don't smoke, and I was just shocked. I don't remember taking anything. I don't remember drinking anything. That wasn't at my house. That was the last place I remember being, was at my house. And then I don't remember anything after that.
Did you see the Phoenix lights as well then?
I have no memory of that incident until probably about 9, 10 years ago, when I was watching something on TV, and the timeline popped up of when it happened, and I started freaking out. My mom was standing there, and I was like, Mom, I was like, this happened in 97, and we were living in Phoenix. Do you remember this? And she just looked at me like I'd just gone completely, I had grown another head
Right.
or something. She just looked at me and she's like, "You don't remember that?" And I was like, "No, I don't." I mean, it sounds really dumb because I lived there. I had obviously had knowledge of when, of it happening, but I don't have any memory of seeing it. But that's when that block of time went missing. So
I was going to say, I wonder if they blocked you out for some reason.
I think so. I had been talking with this gentleman, and he was like telling, the last memory that I have is talking to him, and he said he was like um a blood descendant of the lost Incan tribe or the Mayan tribe or something. And I was just, he looked a little different. He had very high cheekbones, very sharp, and just his bone structure, and even his nose was different. So I was like, You kind of look like you would be, and I don't know, it was really weird. After that, I don't remember anything, just complete blank. Don't even remember getting to that hotel or walking up into the room or laying down or nothing. But I woke up there. I don't It's very
How
odd.
strange is that?
It was very strange. And then not to have
Um,
any memory of the Phoenix lights at all until 2015. 15, I think.
God, that's a long time after.
Yes, that it is. It's like
It's
18
just
years later.
sometimes you just can't explain things, can you, Eve?
I
Sometimes you
can't.
can't explain things. Why did that happen?
I don't know. I wish I had a good explanation for it. I really do.
And you've done so have you actually seen a UFO yourself then?
Yes, I actually have. This was in 2022. I had gone down to Arizona again, down in the Safford area, which is down in kind of by Tombstone area, south of Tucson. And I was staying with a friend of mine, and I was like, it was a full moon and it was in June. I can't remember the exact date. That's all I remember from that. And I was like, gonna do this ceremony. It was a water ceremony to like heal the earth. And I don't even know how I even came about this idea, but I had this kind of like this bigger jug of, and I had filled it with water, and I was just concentrating energy onto it. And it was like I could see it start to, like, even with my eyes closed, I could see this glow from it. And I was with my friend, and I was like, he goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just supposed to, like, you know, do this ceremony for the earth." And I was like, "If you come out with me," I was like, "there's one condition." And he was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "You have to leave your phone here." And he was like, "Oh, okay." He didn't know what to say, but he follows me out, and we go out the back door, and I look up, and I knew immediately they were going to be there. I don't know how I knew. I just knew. And we walk out, and he goes, "Are you seeing this?" And it was like they were just all turning their lights on, and there were all these, like, these ships were just filling the sky with just lights. And it was, they were watching this. They were watching the ceremony that I was doing. And so I, like, I got tobacco, a handful of tobacco from him, and he had some tobacco. And I poured the water into the earth, and I started to pray. And he's over there, and he's got his tobacco. And afterwards I finished, we offer our tobacco down to the ground. I was doing it facing, the moon was behind me, and he was facing
Hmm.
the moon. And we were right by this, like right at the bottom of this mountain. And at the top of the mountain where we were staying, there was like the Lucifer conservatory, or where they have the big telescope. And I'm surprised, but yeah, they were all out there. And then after we concluded the ceremony, he said, "Did you notice that, like, it just got brighter?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, but I thought it was a car behind me, that was turning, into the driveway and then turning out, because I just kind of saw this flash." And he said, "That came from the moon. The moon just got brighter." I was like, "Well, that's like impossible. How?" But, I mean, weirder things have happened. But they, after the ceremony, all the lights and the ships just kind of like just turned off, and or else they were gone. But it was like the most I can't even begin to estimate how many I saw there. And I've been trying to get him to come on my podcast and validate the story, because we left our phones in the house. So I don't know. And that was one of the things that they told me. They said, "Leave your phones." And I was like, "Don't bring your phone out." I don't even know why I said that, but I knew that if I brought my phone out, we wouldn't be seeing all everything in the sky.
Do you think sometimes we are chosen to see things? Because I could go out with somebody, I could see something, and the person next to me can't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, my daughter and my son were looking out the window, and she saw this man in this wheelchair, and he was slowly wheeling past the house. And she's like, "Do you see that guy?" And he goes, "What guy?" She said, "The guy in the wheelchair that's like right in front of the house right now." And he's like, I don't see anybody. So she was seeing things and he, wasn't seeing things, but he can hear things that she can't hear. It's very odd.
It is odd. Yes, it is odd.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we chose them for a reason sometimes to see things, to validate things, to communicate through higher consciousness sometimes.
Yeah. I think it was like July 4th of 2012. And I didn't go. Usually they have like these big celebrations where they have fireworks and everything, a little fair. Um, in our town where we were living at the time, my husband and I, and we decided to forego that because, we had a very small baby and, she was going to be interested in any of that. And I wasn't looking forward to the crowds of people.
No.
And I don't know, we just went outside on the porch and we're just, we had a cigarette and I noticed there's this what looks to me like this ball of fire in the sky. And I think I was facing east, so this thing was going south and it was going north. And I'm just looking at it and I look at my husband, I'm like, "Do you see that?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It's really weird." And I go, see if you can get a picture on it. My phone wasn't that great at the time. And he was trying to get pictures of it, but he was so far away. And all of a sudden, another one comes along, and it's the same thing. It's like a ball of fire, except for the first ship is now starting to look like there's like balls of fire on just the corners. I can't remember if that second ship was there or not because I know that 2 days later it happened again. But I do remember one of the nights there was two that were exactly alike, and they were going from south to north, and they looked like they were on fire. But then the I don't know if it was cooling down or what, but it was like I could see the corners of it, and then I see that it was a triangle, and it was really odd. And we went on online on some of the social media platforms around some of our friends in the area and to see if anybody had seen it. And there was like a couple of people, but there were people coming back from the celebration in the parking lot, and I'm like pointing, look, turn around behind you, look in the sky, and everybody was just waving at us, and it was like, look, it's right there. You guys would see these two balls of fire, or one. I can't remember which day it was, but nobody was looking at it. Nobody was like paying attention. Nobody was pointing at it. They were just talking amongst themselves and just walking in, to the apartment building.
But some people do that. I know I've had the experience at where we go at the bird sanctuary. You could talk to people saying, "Look at that in the sky up there," but they'd be looking at birds, not about the sky. Don't bother. Exactly the
Mhm.
same thing what you've said there. And you
Yeah.
think, can't they see that up there?
Mhm.
Surely. But they might not be able to. It might be just for me or for you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I'm just like on my phone or I'm doing something else, and then all of a sudden it's like I don't hear the actual words, but I just like I look up. It, I, so I'm in the car and I look up, and I'll see, you know, a ship, or I'll see lights, or something that I'm just like, what is that? I have no reason, no logical reason for any of it. What is it? I don't know.
Eve, sometimes do they communicate with you?
Um, in a way, not exactly like how you and I are communicating right now. Um, it was
Is it
like
through
August,
consciousness?
kind of. It's like they show you things. So this was August 28th of 21. Or was it 22? 22. So 8/22/22 or 28/22, I'm sleeping and I'm staying with my parents because my father just starting to get sick. So I was trying to help out and help take care of him. And this was after I had just come from Arizona seeing those ships in the sky. And I'm like laying down sleeping, and all of a sudden, like, I get this feeling like there's like a pain in my pelvic area. And it was like this. I look I look down, but when I'm it's hard to explain. I can see things with my eyes closed with my third eye. I don't understand it. I don't even know how it happens or how I started to understand that I could do this. But I look and I see this little he looks very mean, and he's got like a little like an angry face, and he's very small, and he's hunched over, and he's like drilling. He's using some sort of instrument, and he's drilling into my pelvic bone, and it hurts a lot. And I'm just like finally after a few minutes I'm just like I can't take this pain anymore, and I was like you need to stop. And it immediately shows me this like picture, of, as far as I know, this hasn't happened, or it was not true, but it was like showing me things anyway. And it was basically not having, enough money, to feed extra kids, or, anything. And I'm just like, why is this showing me this? And I was like, it doesn't matter what you think, I don't consent to this. And immediately after I said that, it stopped. But before that happened, I finally, my daughter was sleeping next to me, and I woke her up and she's like, what is that noise? And I was like, that's it. You can hear it too. And I was like, it's this thing. And I like turned on my side, and it went away. But, after I was telling her I don't consent to this, and I thought my daughter was still awake, I look over and she's sleeping. So it's really confusing because it was like she woke up, but when I asked her about it after I really woke her up, she said, I don't have any memory of that. And I go, you don't have any memory of me waking you up and you saying, what's that noise? And she said, no. And I was like, but that was so weird because I asked you, do you hear that? And you said, yeah. And I was like, no, I don't sound crazy, but now I sound crazy. But it was like this red bump was on my pelvic bone, and there was like, it wasn't like anything. There was no reason for it to be there, you know. And it really was very hurtful and just showed up after that. So I don't know if that was something, if they leave actual scars, or, I know that a lot of people say that those red dots are injection marks from them, or from different types of abductions from, either man or other beings.
Right.
Hmm.
And now, was it still there, the pain, the day after then?
Yeah, I could feel it. It was there for a while. I have like actual pictures, and there was just no explanation for, I mean, if it was like a cyst, or if it was anything, ingrown hair, or, anything. It didn't have any of the characteristics of this. It was just out of the blue, boom, it was there when I woke up. But it wasn't there when
Have
I
you
went to
ever
sleep.
have you ever had it tested by a doctor then to have a look and see? And that's what do you think that is then?
I'm a little concerned about going to, because I would have had to go to, I was living on the reservation that my father was from. I would have had to go to the IHS, which is a health service, where they have doctors and clinics and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I've been sitting there in either with my child or for myself, and you have a doctor that comes in with a military jacket on, So it gets kind of weird.
Very weird.
That is very
Indeed.
weird. Yeah. And I've asked other people thinking this is normal. But then I ask other people that were, obviously not brought up on reservations. And they're like, they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, okay. Aside from a military
Yeah,
hospital, why are there military doctors?
yes, exactly. So, has other things happened to you over the years then? Besides that, being shot and then being as though you'd be drilled in the pelvic?
Mm-hmm. Um, let's see. I think it was probably about 2000. I don't remember. I have to remember it off the top of my head. Around 21, and I remember just feeling like I think it was like 2020, and because it was like where everybody was still stuck in their homes, and I'm just like feeling really, oh, I'm so, just why am I here? What is my mission here? Why am I even here at all? I was homesick, but I didn't know where home was. So, and I was like, I'm feeling a little, you know, strange about what everything that's going on and what does it mean? And I just remember going to sleep, and all of a sudden I feel like the same little buzzing again, but this time it's different. It's like I recognize it and I'm extremely happy. And like I was on my side and I was like, well, they're going to have a hard time taking me. So I have to flip on my back. So I rolled over on my back and I'm just waiting. I am just beyond excited. And all of a sudden I can see this kaleidoscope, and it's like, when you turn it and everything kind of changes shape. And there's
Hmm.
like platinum and gold and silver, and it was just this beautiful kaleidoscope of colors, all the just shining, and it was changing colors, and it was like immediately I'm gone. I enter wherever that is, I'm in there and I'm gone. And I was so excited. I don't even know. And it was like 10 minutes later I was back because I woke up. I tend to wake up after they take me for some reason. And I woke up and it was like still the same infomercial was going on the TV than when I fell asleep. And
Hmm.
I I felt so disappointed because I was like I needed to know who that was. Who was I so excited to see? How did I recognize them? I have no memory of it. So I kind of felt very disappointed the next morning.
No,
The
I bet
next
you did.
morning.
I bet you
Yeah.
did.
I want to know who I was so happy to see, because I just remember I was like, it was like Christmas morning. It was that exciting,
Oh my God, Christmas morning as well.
right? And,
Mm.
and at my age, to be that excited about it, but that's what I remember. Just and came at a time when I was like really low, you know, and it came and it was almost like, kind of like somebody come up and just punch you in the arm and say you got this. But I mean, it that's what I felt it was, but I have no memory of it.
How do you, I know you're on about writing your book. What your plan for the future is then?
I still have doing the podcasting. I took some time off. I was going through some injuries, so I had to go do a lot of physical therapy and speech therapy. Um, so I'm still doing that right now. I've gotten other ideas for writing like these shorter stories, and having it tie in with my best friend who also writes. And so we're hoping to like write these little stories where they kind of ping off of each other and you can get clues. I mean, they're not going to be that expensive, but I just had this phenomenal idea, so I was going to go with it.
Yeah, have you ever thought about writing children's stories
I thought about
about
it.
living on a reservation.
I thought about it. I mean, my first book was mostly geared toward the life that I was having at that time, which it changed drastically after that. So I had gone to New York and I was looking for a publishing house or an agent, but I was living so far away from the city. God, it was hard to go back and forth. You almost needed to work like 2, 3 jobs to live there anyway.
Hmm.
But I got the book that I'm working on now. I'm about 20 pages in, and this is an actual a traveling when my body was sleeping, and I remember, and there was like zombies there, and my child at the time, who was about 3, was with me, and I'm trying to protect her from these zombies, and she's like, look, mommy, they don't want me, they're not going to hurt me, and she puts her arm out, and they're just totally ignoring her, but they were like trying to get me. I do remember that. And it was like we were on this weird escalator and we were going up somewhere, but I don't remember like seeing what it was because I was so trying to get these zombies away. So I took kind of went and brought that and started, writing from that and what happened at that point. That was like 2012. So a lot of things were, of what people were worried about in 2012 in the Mayan calendar, um, with the ending of that. So I haven't really got anything worked out. I'm just going to keep doing the
Yeah, that's true.
podcast. I've been about 1 year in so far, and I really like it. It is it's a definite challenge, but I think once everything gets worked out medically with me, I think I should have no issues coming back.
I'm
Taking
sure. I'm sure.
Mhm.
If anybody wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm Eve Howard on Facebook. You can find also Prime Declassified on Facebook, and I have a email address. It's evehoward21 at mail.com. Not Gmail, mail, just mail.com.
And what days is your podcast on?
We have I like a thing called Fallout Fridays where we upload videos for Friday nights. So most of the time it's, we still have about 51 episodes on Rumble right now. So by the time we start again, I think we should be having uploading next Friday. I have a couple shows planned for this
What?
weekend.
Ah, brilliant. What time is that in your time?
At 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Right. So it's like we put 4 hours onto that.
Yeah,
On
on
top of that,
Friday.
and then that's what it is in the UK. Yeah.
Mhm. So
11
we
o'clock at night.
about that. Yes, like 5 hours, so around midnight.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, thank you for coming on the show. We've about due now. We're coming up to the hour. It goes
Oh,
very
thank you for having
quickly.
me. Yes, it does. Such a charming chat.
Yes,
Thank
it
you so
very
much.
quickly indeed. No, thank you for talking
Yes, thank
about
you for
your
inviting.
experiences and everything like that. It's
Yeah,
it's different.
my crazy
I'm
life.
just trying to think who's on. Yeah, I'm just trying to think who's on next Wednesday. I'll just have a quick look. Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, next Wednesday, it's Rob Freeman next week. Great character. He's been on my show before, quite a few years ago. He's a very busy man in America. Is Rob Freeman. Rob Freeman. So he's next Wednesday. That'll be the 16th of October at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific, and 7 p.m. in the UK. I'd like to
All
say
right.
thank you again. Thank
You're
you,
very
Eve,
much.
and
Yes.
have a lovely weekend.
You
Have a
too.
lovely
Thank you.
weekend,
Have
and
a
we'll
good
catch
day.
up with you another time.
Right.
Yes, it's same to you.